Well, hello, everybody. This is Larry from the Blue Collar Nation podcast. And I'm here with my persuasive tech whisperer, business partner, Mr. Eric Sprague. How are you, Eric, today?
I'm good. So you think I'm persuasive, huh?
Manipulative is the other word I would use.
Well, I manipulated you into starting a restoration business.
Yeah, crawling around all kinds of houses and stuff like that. Yeah, it was very persuasive, as a matter of fact.
Yeah.
So there you go. We'll give you some credit. How are you today?
I'm great. How are you?
Wonderful. We have an amazing show today. We're very excited, but we have to talk about our sponsor first. Not have to, want to. Morning Tech Meeting is our sponsor, and Morning Tech Meeting is a training program. Yep, it's on Eric's shirt. He's showing everybody. Very nice. It's a training program for your technicians, so you don't have to teach them the soft skills. So you don't have to, you don't want to, and you never get to it. So everybody says, "Oh yeah, I teach my guys that." Yeah. Sure,
yeah, once a year.
Yeah, once a year, you talk to them how they need to interact with people. Human skills.
Be nice to clients. Meeting over.
Yep. After the interview, oh, yeah, he's a good guy. He can talk to people. Oh yeah, how often does that go real well?
Yeah.
So we have lessons on personal development, in-home behavior, things that you don't talk to them about, self-awareness. Go to morningtechmeeting.com and check out our sample lessons, sign up, and become one of our successful clients that have amazing staffs and amazing culture. So moving on to our show, we have an amazing guest today, Eric. Huh? Are we excited? Or what?
I'm very, very excited about today.
Well, we have Lisa Lavender.
Lisa and I basically already did a podcast. We just didn't record it.
Yeah.
We talked for like an hour.
Or did you record it and not push play by mistake?
Yeah, maybe.
So Lisa is the owner of Restoration Technical Institute. And if you're watching the show, she has the background there. She's also owner of Burke's Fire Water Restoration. So she is an expert because she also is the owner of iRestore Software. And she has about 10 other hats that she's not wearing. We're not going to put it down here, though. But Lisa is an expert. We're very happy to have you today. Lisa, it's a pleasure to see you.
Thank you. Thank you for inviting me to your awesome podcast.
Oh, thank you. Appreciate it. So, Lisa, how did you, I know your background is accounting. I saw in your bio that you went to Penn State, right?
Yes, I did.
Okay.
It was a brief stint as a career as an accountant because I ended up in restoration. I was 15. No, just kidding.
If you could maybe give the listeners kind of a background on, where you started and then how you got into the restoration industry, I think that'd be interesting for everyone.
Sure. I started out brief stint in public accounting, realized it wasn't for me pretty quickly. Went on to work for an organization that I truly loved. And then in the year 2000, my husband, I joke that I grew up in insurance. My father retired as an executive, spending his whole career in product management and underwriting. And unfortunately for me, he used to read me insurance policies as bedtime stories. So
awesome.
Yeah.
I'm sure that put you to sleep real quick.
Yeah. And he was devastated that I didn't become an underwriter and an insurance professional, but he's still working on getting over that. So I always just knew insurance policies. It was just kind of part of my life to understand frequencies, severities, and all the loss ratios, good underwriting practices. And so then I actually married a claims adjuster who grew up in construction. And in the year 2000, I was commuting. We were getting ready to have our second child. And he was, I wanted to get a job. I thought I'll wait till because it was our second, I'll get a job closer. It's easy to get a job in accounting. And he was sent out on a business trip. He was manager of his unit and his position in unit was eliminated. And so we were sitting there, having these great young careers and starting a young family. And we're sitting there going, what? We're both have no job now.
Yeah. 2 kids.
No income, 2 kids. We actually used my daughter's birth as our restoration company's birth date because it literally was, I think he dropped me off from the hospital and ran out the door. I
gotta go sell a loss. Good job.
Yeah, it's kind of it was pretty much like that.
Just push.
And I had an infant and I'm on the computer, doing stuff. So yeah, it was one of those stories. And and he had the opportunity to relocate and stuff, but he said, And he grew as again, he grew up in construction. He said, I don't want to go back to the corporate world. I want to start a restoration company. And I was kind of like, what's a restoration company? I didn't even know what a restoration company was. And we ended up started growing very quickly. I was kind of in a, you know, administrative. I did the accounting, the infrastructure, the workflows of paper, you know, and I'm a very orderly accountant, and things got chaotic very quickly. And I actually remember walking into him and I was, you know, irate and mad. And it was 3 years in, and he was, you know, a project manager at that point, the vehicle repair person, the technician, the, you know, doing all the hats. And I was, you know, doing what I don't even remember what I was doing, but
You're
besides
admitting everything.
You're like
yeah,
CSR,
besides being
DSR, accountant.
recording bills, cutting paychecks, you know,
Yeah.
trying to figure out if we were doing good or bad. And, you know, I realized that we needed a better infrastructure, that everything was chaotic and we were still growing, and that there needed to be some, a foundation built. And I didn't know it, you know, and I was like, you need to help. You need to, I can't do this by myself. I don't know construction. I don't know restoration. I don't even understand what we're doing. And he looked at me very smugly, and I went, and he went, well, then go learn it. And I was so mad. I like stomped off. I'm like that, you know, I was using some expletives, calling them names. And I went in my office to sulk for a minute, and I reflected. I sucked it up. I picked up the phone, and I brought an instructor in to teach WRT. And that's where my education journey started. I don't even know what year it was. It was very early on. And then I became really addicted to it. And which then kind of led to my passion for starting the training center. And the rest became history, I guess, as you would call it.
There you go.
Yeah.
How many years were you working just the restoration business before you started the education component?
Well, you know, it was early on. I don't know if it was, you know, 3 or 4 years into it. Very early on, we started educating the insurance community, and was very good at that, of hosting. We did a lot of CEs. I wrote a lot. My father wrote a lot. And that was kind of one of the things we did as far as relationship development, but we loved sharing the information, knowledge, hosting. So our, you know, trajectory kind of started there early on. And then 2012 is when we officially opened the Restoration Technical Institute.
Okay. Yeah. So did you start, it was more local at the beginning, you know, people from your 100-mile radius coming in to do
For training?
Yeah.
Yeah. You know, initially, I think it was a year or two in before we had our flood house. We have an ASD flood house that's certified by ICRC. So that definitely brings in a larger expanse of people. But, you know, our core was definitely the Northeast corridor, because we're right outside of Philly. So Washington, DC, Philly, Virginia, you know, those areas were always the core. We would always get some people from far away for different classes, and sometimes different countries.
The flood house is great when you have it, because that's
Yeah.
what Eric and I learned on as well. And it just
Yeah.
makes such a big difference, because you're hands-on.
Yeah.
I think most people that get into that type of trade, they like to learn by doing.
Mhm.
You know, I mean, they'll learn with a book, but they really like to learn by then doing it.
Yeah,
With some instruction.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Okay. And then before we move into the things we're going to talk about today, because we have a pretty broad topics list. What about iRestore? How did you get into doing that? And what is it for the people who don't know?
Well, that's kind of a funny story too. So it's a cloud-based operations software. So everything from your job management to your HR, your CRM, your relationship management. And it was funny because early on, probably when I was like, okay, we got to organize things, we actually built our own access based database. And we had a little local lady who would, you know, do the programming for us. And it got fairly complex, believe it or not, with our years and years of adding stuff. And I don't even know. So I'm really bad. Everything's a blur. So I have like really bad perception. So you'll have to excuse me if something happened 3 years ago or like 15 years ago. It just all happened.
Or 15 minutes ago.
Or 15 minutes ago. I'm like, my memory, I'm like, I have glimpses of things that happened. But so at some point, and it actually, when the cloud, I remember they all made fun of me because I just started walking around. I didn't even know what the cloud was. I was like, I think we need a cloud. I think we need a cloud. And then they hung a sign, Lisa's cloud, on the door. But, around that time, I realized it's time to step in the modern age because it wasn't cloud-based. So we were using it for all these operations, printing paper and blah, blah, blah. And it was kind of that time. Okay, we can't depend on one person to move up. So I started evaluating different software and got connected with who's now my partner, Ryan from iRestore. He developed it initially. He comes from a long line of restorers as well. His dad was a restorer. He was a restorer. He was an owner operator with a franchise, the Pure Clean system for a bit. And his passion was computer development. Or software development. So we connected, and for some reason, I was like, this gets it. Like, because it was actually, there was a lot of similarities to the flow and the way the information was connected. And so I decided to go that route. Well, I, of course, made it my big project to make it just right for my company. And Ryan was very patient and accommodating. And so we made, it was like a year and a half of development. And my intention was just to use it. Well, at one point, my husband joked, he said, for crying out loud, as much as you're doing, why don't we?
Can we try to recoup some of this?
Yeah, well, it makes
so
sense.
I go to Ryan. I said to Ryan one day, because at this point now we have a relationship from and it was a great system. I just kind of kept adding to it. And I said, would you ever be interested in having a partner? And he goes, I would love that. And I can't think of anybody better. And I was like, are you sure? I'm a little crazy. And he says, I know you are. And I'm okay with that. So the rest of that story was history too then. Yeah.
All right. Well, I would like to get into some topics. You and I have talked. I've read your articles in R&R magazine. I think there's a lot of crossover in how we think between you and Larry and myself.
Yeah.
So I would like to start with something that, looking back, I think I could have done way better, and that's onboarding. I think onboarding is a thing where we go, hand the guy the business cards, throw them in a van, and tell him go get them. And maybe not even the business card.
Yeah, for sure.
And between our conversation and the article, I'd really like to dig into that a little bit, because I think now, especially Lisa, with retention being such a huge deal for anybody who has a home service company. Just so you know, we have all home services listen to this podcast, plumbers, HVAC,
awesome.
And the topics that we're going to talk about work for any of them. And,
right.
We're all competing to keep technicians. And I think a good onboarding may help with that. So if you could just elaborate on your thoughts on that and what your ideas are.
Yeah, well, I have a lot of them, so you guys just stop me. But
all right,
go. One of the things is, and we had a defined onboarding process for many years, and I actually saw people get a little lazy around me and not being as effective and engaging because everybody's trying to go so fast. And some of our hard, and I'm talking about some of the people I work with, the mindset is, to your point, is let's see what they're made of, or they don't have what it takes. Let's throw them into the hardest.
Yeah, the old hazing. If they throw enough, if you throw a pipe wrench at their head enough and they duck enough times, they'll survive.
Yeah, exactly. And I actually was like, time out, everybody. And I actually called it that. I was like, this isn't BFW hazing. It's onboarding. So we said, we're going to take a fresh look at it. And I started saying no more onboarding. We're going to turn it into wow boarding. And I actually started a program. I kind of hit multiple things at once because I practice literally what I'm preaching and writing about it and developing content and curriculum for it at the same time. So, it's very important because for a lot of reasons.
So why is it so important to get it right for the for the new incoming employee? Like, what will it do for them? I mean, not even us as the owner,
Yeah.
but what's it do for them?
Well, it sets them up on a trajectory for success, which ultimately does benefit the company and even the people that they're working with. I mean, so, long term, the goal needs to be, we want this person to be set for success. Now, some of the missteps that I believe happen is having clarity of what is setting them up for success, what's entailed in that. What are the details of it? And so, you may have, there's all different levels of how developed an onboarding program is. And sometimes, it could just be a charted out like step 1, 2, 3, 4, but there's elements of connection. There's the 4 C's that I'm really kind of driving home. And I did not invent them. They're from let me find that person's name to properly remark on it here, but it's very widely used in onboarding protocols. And it's Dr. Taylor Bauer of the SHRM Foundation, which is one of the most recognized HR management firms. And the 4 C's are compliance, clarification, culture, and connection. So we may, get through that, like, okay, well, we, got them fit tested for the respirator. We gave them this, we told them the rules to tuck in their shirt, and off we go, right? Or we may even send them for a class for technical training. But there's a lot more to it when you start digging into even the clarity element, the cultural element, and the connection. And when you talk about connections, I had to really drill this home, my team and selling them on the importance and how we're going to do better at it going forward is, though I know we have all different trades and everybody has those moments in any trade, definitely in restoration, when it's 3 o'clock in the morning and you call your buddy and you're like, oh my gosh, I got a big, can anyone help me? And somebody comes and helps you, right? It's not because they want to go and, deal with the fire or sewage at 3 o'clock in the morning. It's because they have a personal connection to you. And they may even enjoy what they do, but there's more to it than that drive. And so when we're developing our onboarding process, it's best done by acknowledging and thinking through and putting these elements and ingredients into it.
The good onboarding benefits everybody, like you're saying, because you reinforce your standards continuously each time somebody comes on.
Yeah.
So that things don't fall through the cracks because everybody's reminded of what the expectations are of
Absolutely.
them and the connection that they all have.
Yeah.
And
it's a first impression. I mean, if you forget 3 things that somebody needed, you're just establishing your own company's standards of care right there. Like
that's what I was going to say. It's establishing for that new employee that they made the right choice, that they went to a professional organization where there's actually a future, opposed to, lack for a better term, they took a job at a shit show.
Yeah. No, it's
and look, there's no shortage of those.
Professional hazing.
No more professional hazing.
Look, I'm going to raise my hand. I was guilty of that. I used to love, I mean, I outgrew it, but my litmus test was first day, that guy's going in a crawl space in sewage.
Yeah.
And if he survives till 5 o'clock, then maybe he or she will make it.
And one more time with them.
Yeah. You might want to, and then in retrospect, Larry and I talked about it. It's like, we may want to get them. Maybe that's week 3 or 4, like let's not, but I grew up like that working. So did Larry.
I know.
That doesn't make it right at all.
No, it doesn't make it right. It's just all we knew. Like we had to learn.
Yeah, my husband always said, well, that's how my dad taught me. He'd be like, what are you, an idiot? Hit him upside the head. That's not how you do it. That was his trait. Worked for me. I'm like, well, that's not, I think we can change that process up a bit, but absolutely. And, it's so hard to get somebody. And the other thing people have to think about is like, what do we talk about when we're trying to build our business is what do we focus on, that customer experience, word of mouth? I mean, you guys probably you probably grew your restoration company from one customer telling another customer, right?
Yep.
Well, guess what happens with new employees when they're wow boarded? They post about it. I love this new company I'm at. Guess what that does?
Yeah.
Others see it.
Yeah.
Yeah. It grows
They're
legs.
gonna bring in their friends and cohorts.
Relatives, whatever. Yeah.
Mhm.
Mhm.
Yeah. So, all right. So, what does it look like, Lisa? If I got a job as a new water damage technician at your
Yeah.
company, like walk us all through what my day or week
Mhm.
would look like when I first start.
Well, and again, I'm not a big one on like saying you have to do it this way. I like
No,
to give
no.
people ideas to make it their own. So one of the first things everybody has to realize is that the onboarding process starts when you're placing an ad. It starts when you're interviewing, and that's where a lot of the clarity comes in. Then you go into your pre-employment phase. One of the things that, and all those pre-employment things that are part of onboarding, we want to start talking about our purpose and our values and be very clear on what the expectations are. And that also includes, in the trades, we need to be paying appropriate attention, in my opinion, to the physical requirements and demands of the job. And there's, things that need to be managed in that aspect as well, from pre-employment physicals, if there's lifting requirements, etc. So that's kind of where it all begins. And then you have your first day, or sometimes maybe it happens. And we actually started digitally onboarding people with our digital train solution. So they get their a welcome course that they start to understand what we're about, our purpose, our mission, our values, employee manual, some of their compliance training for bloodborne global harmonization, say we're the compliance, so then, and here's the other element too, is I'll do a shout out to John Isaacson, because I crack up, he does the be intentional, and I always just use the words be deliberate. So whichever one resonates for you, but that whole thing is a key. So whoever's the hiring person, there's like a checklist that every single detail is addressed. And then the appropriate people are taken care of so that everything is ready for that person the first day. So whether it's their phone, emails, login, credentials, uniforms, the whole gamut, PPE bag, et cetera, et cetera. And then we, one of the things in our enhanced thing we started is we actually have an onboarding officers that are trained, because I kind of joke, there's always somebody we love, but can be kind of a cranky pants on whatever day. So we don't necessarily want to put a new person there first.
Don't talk to the new hires. Whatever you do, stay away from them for the first month.
Some of them went, why am I not onboarding? I'm like, oh, we love you, but we might make you an offboarding officer. I'm not sure. No. So, you want to like designate those onboarding officers, define a period of time that they stay assigned with them that can speak, help get them connected to the informal things, the culture, that they're trained on the values, how to answer questions. We started a monthly wowboarding breakfast where all the new people come in. Everybody who's been there is, of course, invited in, because again, I'm big on feeding and breaking bread together to help bond. And in the trades and restoration, everything is crazy. It's hard to get everybody together. It's hard to stop for lunch for 2 hours. And so we decided to go the route of a monthly standing breakfast, and they are highlighted. They get a gift bag, a card that I actually wrote them a poem, a welcome poem. So a welcome message, and everybody who has pre-signed it to them. I recite the poem.
That's a good job for you. You should start.
That's classic.
There you go, Larry.
That is awesome, Lisa.
Time.
Yeah, I write restoration poetry. I actually was joking at the last class, because the one guy is like, I love poetry. And I was like, should I publish a book? Would anybody buy it? And he's like, I go, you what? I have containment, documentation. That's one of my favorites. I have all kinds of, fire, smoke, odor. I even have a trauma scene, carpet cleaning. I know I need a life, but that is my hobby. Okay, anyway, so I recite this poem. Everybody, walks up, personally welcome. We have them do like, those person boards. So we have some magazines and markers and big pieces of paper, kind of tell their story. I hang a sample of mine. So it's not like super
Hang on,
personal.
I'm sorry. I've got to interrupt because
Yeah.
I can't let this poem thing go away this
Oh.
quick. Do you have the poem close by? Could you recite us the poem? Is that
Oh, yeah.
an
You want
acceptable
me-
request?
Yeah.
I think I would love to hear the poem.
I get very dramatic when I do a poem reading.
You know,
Can
I don't
handle
know,
it?
Larry, if you care which one. I'm very curious about the containment poem.
Oh, I can pull it up. Oh gosh, I hope it's in the right file. Okay. Oh, I love the containment poem is actually one of my newer ones, believe it or not. I know it's so weird.
We've never had anybody quote poetry. This is going to be a first.
So here's I have documentation, mold, smoke and odor, upholstery, mold, containment. I actually wrote one about insurance, smoke and odor. Yeah, I'll do.
Which one is the most entertaining?
You do whichever one you want.
Yeah.
It doesn't matter.
Well,
it's fine by us.
Well, okay. I feel like my welcome to the restoration company poem.
Okay. Yeah. Let's do
Fitting.
that.
It's fitting because it could inspire others. And it doesn't have to be a poem if you're not a restoration poet, but you can make a little welcome message that everybody can sign. Mine happened to be a poem. So
and you have a copyright on this, so people can't steal it. Okay. So
yeah, I don't, you know what? I'm a big sharer. So if anyone wants to retool it, I'm fine with that.
Okay, cool.
So my company's Berkshire Water, so we use BFW as the acronym. Welcome to BFW. You are new to BFW. With open arms, we welcome you. Pride and joy abounds as we help people rebound from fire, water, and even poo. Those who serve will count on you. There is much to learn and more to do. We will help support and teach you how to restore homes, businesses, and lives. We make people safe and able to thrive. As a team, we are set apart because we help each other with joy in our hearts. We work hard and are rarely bored, but in this, there is great reward. As we make a meaningful impact on the lives of others, you have opportunities to glow with your new sisters and brothers. Remember, it is never a bother to help you grow, to help you succeed. We are happy to welcome you to our team.
That is so good.
That is
so good.
Another applause for that one. That was.
If we have time at the end, I'll let you pick another dramatic reading.
There we go. I already have like the title of the podcast, restoration poet.
Yes, exactly. I just
you can just change my bio. I didn't know if it was a thing, so I don't include
it's a
it
thing
yet.
now.
Okay, good.
Totally a thing. That was very cool.
Okay. So yeah, I mean, think of the different, we used to talk about that all the time because I think we'll segue into kind of the soft skills training next and maybe come to technical after. But, one of the differences I think that Larry and I had in our local market was that we spent so much time with our team. Like we just learned that for us to compete in our local market, everybody has the same equipment. Everybody has the same vans. Everybody has the same everything.
Yeah.
Everybody goes to the same technical trainings. So what's the great separator? It's our team, right? And getting them trained properly, but also having that relationship with them. Like you said, the sisters and brothers and we've spent a lot of time working on that. A lot of time, people used to look at Larry and I like we were nuts.
Yeah.
The amount of time and energy we put into that, but it worked. It works.
Yeah. And I think it's great that what you guys do and sharing that as a resource with other people, because it's very important. And, the whole onboarding thing, like, we have this wow boarding breakfast, but, when I walked away from it, I was like, that was good for everybody. Everybody's focused on engagement and retention. Yeah. I'm like, that was good for everybody who works here to take a time out, have a reminder of what we're about and how we're supposed to help each other. And so it was good on many levels, not just boarding the new people.
Yeah, but it's such a culture building exercise too, and that goes hand in hand with the soft skills. Larry and I, we had a barbecue trailer. So we used to do barbecues at plumbing supply houses is one of the ways that we would market.
Okay.
And so what we used to do for our team is we'd pull the barbecue trailer up and we would cook for them.
Yeah.
So the thing, we'd say, okay, on Friday, don't eat before you come. We're going to feed you, and you said it earlier, that breaking bread, for us, it was something even about, I'm up on the barbecue, cooking the food, handing the plate to Larry, and Larry's delivering it to them at their table. Yep. We're serving them because they're serving us every day.
Yep.
As an owner. So we felt it was incumbent upon
Exactly.
us to, do the same. And
Totally agree.
I think that
Totally
goes a
with you.
long way.
Absolutely.
a long
It
way.
does.
We'd be eating with the guys, or I'd be eating, and I'm like, Eric wouldn't be eating. I'm like, dude, eat, sit and eat. He goes, I'm not hungry. I said, I don't care. Sit and eat.
I'd always be wanting to do the next thing,
I'm like,
And Larry
chill,
was
have
totally
a conversation.
Larry was totally right. He's like, you got to slow down and spend some time with them. And
Yeah.
it's
It's very important. And, people blow those things off. And I'm like, I'll never forget in the early days before, when I was still soaking it all in, trying to find our way. It was probably a year or two in the business. And somebody who worked in the office was visibly, had, the bad ooze rolling off of them and stuff. And I finally had to pull him in and have a conversation. And it was because Ted wasn't saying good morning. And I said, you know what? And people, make light of that. And I'm like, that is part of the environment. It does not kill you. We just had a speaker come in here for a little retreat we did. And I loved what he said, that he made it such a priority. He was actually a superintendent in a school district, that he would walk in and, enthusiastically every Monday morning say good morning. And when people would say good morning, and everyone always says, how are you? So he made it a thing and taught everybody to say, I'm super and getting better. And it just gives you I just got like a little goosebumps about that, because it just like says so much and just sets a great tone. And how much energy does that take? Right.
Well, I had that lesson. So Larry and I had an assistant, and her desk was right in front of the door to my office. And we had she had been there several years, and I worked with her closely and had a good working relationship. And then we went to some disc training, and then I went and got John Maxwell certified, and I was changing, I was learning and I was changing. Yeah. And then I just all of a sudden recognized, I'm like, I don't think I say good morning to her ever. Right. Uh-huh. So I went over and it like, she knew I was changing and evolving as a human.
She was so thankful.
And I said, I said to her, do I ever say good morning when I come in? And she looked me dead in the eye, Lisa, and went, not once in 6 years. Have you ever?
She said, Larry is the only one that ever says good morning.
Yeah. Well, no, Larry's good about that.
Larry's always said good morning.
So I had to learn that
got trained
I have to go around and say good, because I was walking in and like, I got stuff to do. I'm a task.
I put an alert on his phone, so it said, "Alert, say good morning to everybody this morning."
But once I change, and it goes to show you that if I could change, that anybody could change. You can change. Like, we're not static beings.
Yeah, absolutely. It's totally. And you know what? We all, like, I'm sitting here talking about how important it is and acknowledging it. And I caught myself. My brain starts going. I was looking down. I actually talked to the team because I was honest, recognizing that I realized I was just not stomping, but walking quickly, not making eye contact with people I never even saw before. Well, they were new people. And I said, we all got to stop doing that, so I made myself stop, because I'm just scurrying out of my mind. I'm not trying to be rude. We all do it. Slow down and just say, oh, hi, I'm Lisa. Welcome. It's not that hard.
How difficult is that, right?
Yeah. Exactly.
Larry,
we all do it.
Larry's so good at this just naturally, like it's just in his being. And I remember, so we used to even like when you have to let somebody go, they just were not performing, and they would have many chances to change behavior. So by the time we were letting them go, there was no new news. So I would always be the person that would, tell them, okay, you can't work here anymore. And then, they'd be upset. And then every single time I'd look out they'd leave, and I'd look out the window and see Larry in the parking lot hugging them.
It was welcome to the car.
Larry walked him to the car every time and said, I'm sorry it didn't work out. It doesn't mean we don't like you as a person. And I'd look out and I'm like, I'm the bad guy and he's getting a hug.
He's the hugger. He's the hugger. Next time I see you both, I'll hug Larry and I'll just give you a nod.
Fist bump. I'll just be like, now I've become much more of a hugger. Like I've learned I've learned,
No, that's
now
a
we
lie.
don't even know if we're allowed to hug, just when you became a hugger.
Oh yeah, there's some truth to that. But the thing is though, is that, as part of all of this, like that's a culture issue.
Yep.
We remained in good graces with the people that we even let go.
Absolutely.
And
That's a great,
look, they're going to go to another restoration company. We're going to see that person again. They might become an adjuster.
right.
We've had
And
that happen.
Yeah.
Right.
The relationships are so important. That you just gotta-
absolutely. And
And
not
even when-
everybody, and I tell people that all the time, whether it's whether it's the industry or an individual company, it's okay sometimes that it didn't fit.
Yeah.
It's not the end of the world. The point is for everybody to find their
Totally.
place and be happy.
Yep.
I believe in being happy in what you're doing. So
Well, I think that's a good segue into soft skills training because, I think in a lot of it, Larry and I mean, we had soft skills in a sense that we were good communicators, I think, before we even started the business.
Sure.
And we had other jobs and careers and
yeah,
that, you needed that. But we weren't good at teaching our team how to do that. So, what we learned was that our problems in the field were rarely technical. Nobody ever called and said, that guy cut my drywall wrong or, whatever. So it was always a soft skill issue. The technician didn't communicate with me. They didn't tell me when they were leaving. They didn't tell me when they're going to be back. They didn't tell me that all the equipment has to stay on all night, whatever it might be. Right. So it took Larry and I a while to figure out oh, we need to actually train these things. And so many people in the trades that, friends of ours would be like, well, why should I have to do that? The school should have done that. Their parents should have done that. Why is it incumbent upon me to do that? And our answer is always like, well, the school didn't do it and their parents obviously didn't do it. So you're the only one left.
Yeah, exactly.
You might as well just get your head around it.
Well said. Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
And, I always talk, Larry and I talk about, excuse me, like having an invisible tool bag. So when you walk to the front door, you've got one tool bag full of meters and hammers and wrecking bars, but you have an invisible tool bag that you need to employ, which is, full of empathy and communication skills and all of those things. So, I mean, what has been your journey with soft skills in this industry over the years? I mean, did you kind of start like us and just hire people and say, go?
Yeah, pretty much.
Yeah.
And, early on, I was very lucky. My dad retired from the insurance company. So he just started, the big joke is, he walks around, I'll work for food because we basically feed him in exchange for his guidance. So he's been guiding us for a long time. So he was able to help us navigate some of those things. And I love your analogy I love that with the invisible tool bag. That's really cool. And so, from day one, and when we initially spoke, Eric, I said, well, ironically, I write a lot about culture and things like this, but we actually, our core training, our only main training is all technical skills. It's not really soft skills. And we sprinkle and talk about it. But in the actual day-to-day in the restoration company, these are competencies and skills that are defined, recognized, and developed. And so absolutely, they're very important. It's not uncommon. We have a mold class starting Monday, and in that particular course, there's so much technical, and we're building containments and getting our pressure differential just right. And I said, and I'm always kind of like, whether it's cutting your tape crooked and it looks like a mouse chewed it, or to your soft skills, an average person doesn't know that you are off on your pressure, but they notice if it looks like it was built slovenly and unprofessionally.
Presentation is a big deal.
100%.
And or if you are not polite and you're not communicating, those things get noticed. You're exactly right. That's where the problems are. It's because you left trash on the job site. It's not because, as much as the technical, and it's
well,
so it's very important.
You just said it, Lisa. Like they view any restoration person showing up at their job as knowing how to do the technical things. That may or may not be true, but to the customer, that's like the bar that everybody has already passed. So all they do is judge us on the things that they understand. Mm-hmm. Does that guy smell bad? Did he or she talk nicely to me? Did they leave trash? Did they like, those are the things that it's because it's the only thing they know how to judge us on.
Right. Yeah. So totally. They're very important. And I, again, love what you guys are doing, and people do need to absolutely invest and develop. It is a key. And here's the thing is, it's not only a key to servicing in your organization success, it's, I feel part of why I'm so passionate about training is because it helped me in my career in this industry. And then I just got such great satisfaction and felt it was my responsibility to give, when we bring somebody on, to give them the skills and support they need to succeed. And as you grow in your career, when someone wants to grow, their soft skills become more important. I mean, and that's a fact. There's research on it. There's lots of statistics that soft skills, emotional intelligence, those things, as you move up in your career, become of higher importance or weight, however you want to phrase it, than your technical abilities and knowledge. You need those, but then to keep going and growing.
And then there's the issue of, and we've all done this. I need a project manager. Who do I take? Oh, my best technician who may have none of those skills. Right. And then you throw them in that PM job and they just start to flounder. And you're thinking, what happened to this, guy or lady?
So good at what
they were so good, but it's like, well, you've put them in something that you've not trained them. You sent them to WRT, ASD, fire, water, stone, carpet cleaning. And then yet you've trained them none on the other side. And now you expect them to go to become a project manager or a manager and thrive.
Yep.
That's illogical.
Yeah. Exactly. And there's a couple of things that you kind of triggered me on there, and one of them is, you triggered, I get triggered. I call it, you triggered me. But no, one of them is to have it clearly defined what the expectation, it goes back to clarity. That's throughout, and clearly defining what the expectations are, what those competencies look like. And if somebody wants that as a career goal, again, you owe it to them to say, okay, you need to start working on your communication skills. You need to be prepared. You need to develop your ability to prioritize. Maybe that's a soft skill that maybe somebody in that role may need to take. Your verbal or written communication, whatever those things are, there's ways to lay those out as actual areas and be open and honest and upfront, not only for you so you don't make those mistakes, but for the people who want to move into those positions.
Yeah. And the thing is that if you think about it, like when you put an ad out for a project manager, you say all the things that they need to have and be to be, able to apply for that job.
Yeah.
But maybe within the company, you don't have those same things listed to actually do the job and have those competencies.
Yeah, that's a great point. Absolutely.
You put more time into the ad than you do the people that you need to develop within the house to get to the next level.
Absolutely.
And then they feel stuck.
Yeah.
It's like, oh, I don't get to move up. Yeah,
exactly. And it's, like I'm big on, because I see this, whether it's functions or clearly communicating the expectation. Like I say those things often because a lot of people will say, they're not doing it the way I want them to. And everyone gets frustrated. And then I'll usually say like, well, tell me what that is. Tell me. And then everybody,
what did you tell them to do?
Yeah. Or how are, and then you get the deer in headlights. Like, well, what is your expectation? And sometimes it's like, well, it's the way I used to do it. Yeah. And I'm like, okay,
mental telepathy.
Well, and I'm like, well, let's start breaking that down. How did you used to do it? What were the key ingredients? Let's turn those into best practices. And, that even if you put somebody in a role that may be struggling in one of those areas, the better you're able to articulate things, the better you can help them, even if it's just like an area they need to develop in. If it's a soft skill, it could be a technical skill, it could be a proficiency issue,
right? Whatever
it is.
Yeah. If you don't mind, I'm going to read a little bit and I'm going to paraphrase a bit for the interest of time, but from your R&R magazine article on onboarding, you kind of lay out a process, right? This is process, so 1, get hired. 2, first day or prior to the first day, orientation, tour of the building, lunch with a team member. Okay. Awesome. 3, within the first 30 days, fit test with training, full day orientation, review some policy, restoration, basic training, 30-day assessment, 60-day assessment. Within the first 60 days, establish a training plan. If only people would do that right there. Like that's not
That's the
that. I mean,
basics.
yes, that's work, but that is a game changer for a company. Just if you just employed those things, Larry and I used to do 30-day quick reviews. So every 30 days, every employee got reviewed. One sheet of paper. Half the time, Larry and I were doing it on the tailgate of a truck at a job site. The reason being is we realized, because you talked about the frustration from the owner before, like if you only review every year, like that person's going off course and just getting further and further, and you're getting angry and not saying anything. And by the end, you're like, you know what? You're fired.
Yeah.
If you had just met with them frequently, even if it's 60 days, whatever.
The onboarding, what you're talking about, the onboarding, it's more important then, so that everybody's
then
on the same page.
because then you're nipping bad habits right in the bud.
Absolutely.
And then for the first few months, maybe they're a little off course and those are not as nice conversations. But then if you're doing it every, say, 30 days, they can never get far enough off course that the meeting's very negative.
Yeah.
And if it is negative and it's been positive for a long time, you're like, hey, what's going on? Are you okay? Is your personal life and you almost always find out like I'm having marital problems or, so those little touches. And I mean, these things for us were like 5 to 10 minutes tops.
Exactly. Yeah, absolutely. And you can, actually it was actually a while ago since I wrote that. And although those concepts so we actually increased, we moved everything up way earlier on the timeline with our new onboarding concepts of getting them training and engaged even earlier in the communication cycles, even sooner, especially early on. But what we used to use, and I'm like kind of laughing because, in the last couple of years, we learned a lot about learning and training and the concept of a learning path. And a learning path is, when you're engaging and reviewing, it may be like, what do you want? Restoration has, how many services we do construction. So, there's contents, there's water, there's mold, there's demo, all the construction trades, mechanical. It's like,
totally,
it's everything. So you don't, when people say, well, where do you start them? I go, well, the best approach is to individualize a learning path to that person, to their speed of learning, to their interests. And sometimes it's, it's a combination of their interests where you see them and you put them on that learning path, and also based on company needs as well. There may be a specialty and you may be seeking out like, hey, Larry, I see you're really good with details. Would you like to, can we put you on a learning path to do electronics restoration? He's gone now. So, but back in the day, and to your point about taking 5 minutes, before we use the term learning path, we actually developed a skill set matrix. So the skill set matrix was, it has everything from, the water down, all estimating. So it was, just an Excel spreadsheet, and it would say, across the top, and be individualized for the person. In training, now they're proficient or not applicable at this time, right? And so the person could always see all the different things they could learn, and the supervisor was able to sit down in many different contexts, from this is your learning path to get you started and your goals, and we're going to sit down and see how you're doing. And or if it's somebody who wants to move up to a more advanced position, that's great. Let's sit down and do a skill set matrix with you and get their feedback on where they are proficiency wise and things on that skill, and if they still need training, and getting all on the same page in this whole matrix. And when you have stuff like that set up and in place, it is an easier process. It seems overwhelming, but there's a lot of tools out there you can use to have these really good, solid, clear, because you don't want to have ambiguous. Well, you said I was going to get promoted. No, that's not what I said. I said, right, everybody's been in that position. That's not what I said, where you have this nice, very solid foundation for a clear communication.
Yeah, no, I like that.
No, it keeps everybody on the same page, real, honestly and respectfully and directly.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
So Lisa, let's move on to then the other tool bag, the technical training tool bag, right? So, to be a balanced technician, you need both. You need to be proficient on both sides of that coin. So you're known for technical training. So, regardless of trade, I find that too many home services businesses don't invest in their team to go get them trained like that. And there's a lot of this. I'm afraid if I train them, they're going to leave me and go get money else somewhere else. Right.
Right.
So, could we start with that concept of just why it's important to get everybody trained? And look, now is easier than ever. When COVID hit and all of a sudden everything went virtual, I think it made it almost, there's no excuse anymore not to get everybody trained, because you don't have to put them on an airplane and fly them for 3 days to another city, or, depending on where you are. I wish we had that ability when we had our restoration company. It would have been better for us.
Yeah, absolutely. And the technology and resources available in technical training today, and that was kind of part of our journey, is it was kind of like, COVID made us understand, learn, and also deploy e-learning. And it's like it's new to restoration, but it's not new out there. I tell people all the time when there's naysayers, I was like, guess who was the first industry to successfully use e-learning? The aviation industry, pilots. That's, so I was like,
nothing's more hands-on than being a pilot.
Yeah, I'm like, this can be done effectively, and there's things that may even be more effective in this day and age. So yeah, it's more accessible and affordable, some of the barriers. And so, the biggest thing is there's so many reasons. It's the same with soft skill training. I mean, you could just say training in general but part of it is, and I tell, especially when there's if there's people, are theoretically competitors in the same class, I'm like, you're not competing amongst yourselves. You're a company that's invested in training. The trained companies are competing against the untrained companies. That's where the competition is. Totally. Because, and sometimes people don't know what they don't know. They don't know that there's training and credentialing and science and all these things. So, everybody likes to lead, and I hate leading with this, that it's proficiency, efficiency, and profitability, but those are, and I usually don't even lead with those, but those are impacted. But because to me, it's more about making good, everyone wants to build relationships with the communities and customers they serve, and even with the employees and staff. And that's based on trust and credibility. Eric, if I offered to give you a haircut, I don't know how you'd feel about that. Or it looks like you love your beard, I don't know if
I do love my beard.
Okay. So if I said, let me just trim it for you, I've been wanting to do this for years and give it a shot.
Yeah.
You'd probably say no, because I don't have the credentials or the credibility or the track record to do that. So when we're making
cut my hair.
Yeah, I can do your hair. No, I actually probably shouldn't even try that one. We had a whole bald hair care discussion the other day. We can have that another time. It was very intriguing because everybody who was bald had a different technique. But anyway, but yeah, when you're committing to people that you're there to service them in a quality manner, which to your point, like everybody's going to say that, and you're going to use technology and you're going to minimize the inconvenience. Well, it takes training to truly deliver on that.
Yep.
And training also, so, part of that is that trust. And when you say, oh, there's opportunity in restoration, I think everybody in restoration would say there's great opportunity in restoration, but you have to help get people that opportunity if you're making that promise to them.
Yeah.
And, there's safety things. There's a lot of details, a lot of science, and a lot of safety related things. And we have the duty to our team and our customers to invest in them being properly trained to do the type of work we're doing. It's setting them up for success. But you know what? It also, and I actually say, make your company a teaching hospital, where from that first day, everybody's I had in my own company, and I'm obviously talking about learning and teaching all the time. That's one of my passions. Is that it kills me when I see somebody who's been on 60 water classes or 60 water losses, and they go to their first WRT class, and they just now were explained why you set an air mover the way you did, and I'm like, guy. And so I talk about that stuff in classes. Is like, start talking to people about this. Start telling them there's science, because it gets you excited and engages you when you realize, oh, you're not just throwing equipment in a room, or you're not just ripping stuff out, or you're not just, being forced to record data, that there's actual science. It gives pride, engagement to everybody. And it helps them be able to better articulate and communicate when you have that technical knowledge to the customers. When you're insecure and you don't know how to answer the questions because you don't have the technical knowledge, it can be very uncomfortable for you.
Well, and it affects your soft skills side, because if you don't have the confidence to speak knowingly about the technical side, you're going to come off as different than you would if you knew.
Absolutely.
You could have the greatest personality and the most soft skills training in the world. If you don't know how to do the work,
right,
they will know.
Yep.
They'll sense that.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Yeah. They go hand in hand. You have to have both, you know.
Totally agree.
And to your point on waiting, a lot of people look, and we've done this, you wait 6 months because you like, I don't know if that's the right person, or I don't know if they'll stay. I want to make sure. But that's 6 months that they're going out representing your company, and who knows what's going on.
Yeah.
You can have the best project managers in the world, but in the restoration industry, there's going to be a time when that person's alone and doing a job. Send Timmy or Susie, because it's a small one and we're super slammed, that, oh boy, all hell breaks loose.
Yeah. And I tell people all the time, that first time, especially if you turn in a packet and your documentation and it's not right, you just branded yourself. It could be one mistake, but you just branded yourself.
Yeah. Well, they recognize that you're investing in them with the training, so they're more apt to reciprocate and do a good job. So when you do train them, you're pouring into them, which is just
absolutely. It's an investment in, we buy equipment and stuff. We all know our people are our greatest asset. And it's investing in them just as you do in your trucks and your equipment and your tools. And, another thing you just remind me, Eric, with that story is I'm like really big on consistency. That my team actually makes fun of me because I'm like, consistency. But that's where training comes from. And I actually got really into, because it was somebody who was a former manager who took a class here, and it was Chick-fil-A. And, there's all these case studies. And, when people reflect on their Chick-fil-A experience, that's training. It's actually, they digitally train everybody. But one of the soft skills, Eric, is if you notice when you say thank you to somebody at Chick-fil-A, I don't know if you're a Chick-fil-A fan. A lot of people's kids are. My kids are always on Chick-fil-A. It's my pleasure. They always all say, it's my pleasure, not you're welcome.
Yeah.
And it's consistency that, and it's hard in restoration to get 100% consistency, but training both in technical skills and soft skills is a pathway to that consistency that we all need for people to count on us.
Yeah. And the Chick-fil-A thing, like, I don't care for the food. I'm not a fan, but I love going there to see the service experience. And I used to say that to our team in the morning meetings: go to Chick-fil-A and then go to, XYZ other fast food, and look at the difference in what your customer service experience is, because that's what we need to be doing. Same thing. I used to use Nordstrom and Walmart. You can go to a Nordstrom and, it's going to be a completely different experience than it is to Walmart. Granted, the price points are different, but
absolutely,
to that point, that's what the customer is judging.
Yeah.
They're judging the service experience more than the work.
Yeah.
Because they don't understand the work. They understand the experience.
Yeah, exactly. And it's like, do I love the food? No. Would I go back? Sure.
Well, my
And-
obsession started because I couldn't understand what everybody's passion was. I was like, why is everyone? Because I'm like, it's just a piece of chicken. And then I started to get, so I actually started researching it so I could understand it. And I was like, oh, okay. Yeah. But yeah, I totally agree with you. You're exactly right.
Yeah, and there's another in Southern California, and there's another In-N-Out Burger is another organization that does, you could tell, a lot of soft skills training.
Yeah. Absolutely.
They have a good training program. So
Yeah.
yeah, I think both are important. Well, Lisa, we've been going on and on for like an hour, so we don't want to take your whole day. But could you just tell everybody how to find you with the various things that you're doing so that the listeners can go and frequent your training if they need it?
Absolutely. Anybody can contact me and is welcome to reach out at lisa@rtilearning.com. And I'm actually even happy just to give a little onboarding checklist if anybody needs one. Just credit card, PP bag of I have a sample template that I'm happy to send anybody who'd like it.
Yeah, awesome. So everybody, especially in the restoration industry, should go and check that out for sure.
Absolutely. Awesome. Well, thank you guys so much. It was a lot of fun spending a little time with you.
Could have done that all day.
I enjoyed the poetry so much. That was great.
Lisa, can you end with a poem?
Okay. So you want documentation, containment, you pick.
I'm really
poem on documentation.
I really want to hear the containment poem.
Oh, he wants, okay. All right.
It's a good way to send us off.
We know you're good with containment.
Well, and it's a good practice because I have to do it next week for AMRT class. So,
all right.
Okay. Ode to containment. Containment building is a skill, and you usually do not need a drill. The contaminants is what we dread, as you must stop them and prevent any spread. As many methods you can choose as you do your project with safety shoes. Skills and grace is what it takes to build containment so that nothing escapes.
Wow, that is so cool. Dr. Seuss would be envious.
That is so awesome. I do think you should do the book. I'm thinking
I'll put it on the to-do list.
Book of restoration poetry.
That'd be awesome.
Actually buy that. I don't know.
That could just be your marketing tool.
Yeah, that might work.
All right. Well, Lisa, thank you. We had a great time. We really appreciate it.
Thank you guys. I really appreciate it. Bye-bye.
Bye.